and gentlemen, it's me, PD, back with another Carlisle Cult Cinema cast, and I'm joined by the very excellent friend of the show, David Quantick, Emmy Award-winning writer. He's just been on so many things, absolutely fantastic guy. As this is his third time back on the show. Nice to have you back, David.
Nice to be here, PD. Always a pleasure.
It's great to have you back. I've been wanting to get you back on for ages, but it's one of those that you don't like to ask.
You can always ask. I've got nothing else to do.
Well, you've got loads on, but we'll get to all that. Most currently, it's been whatever happened to Baby Jane Austen with
Yeah,
the lovely Don French and Jennifer Saunders, which you won an award for as well.
yeah, that was a nice award to get because it was a British comedy guy, but it was an audience. Do they have audiences? It's a website. It was a website users vote, and I'm sure most people voted because it was French and Saunders, but it's really nice to win something like that that's been voted for by people who aren't critics, although I do like critics because I am one. And yeah, it's won three. There are those little glass awards that you get in garden centres, and they're really nice. So I've got three of those. Of course, no one can see them because they're made of glass, but it is it is brilliant to get them, and I'm just so happy with the show because French and Saunders are brilliant, and it's just mad to have something on Radio 4 being rude about everybody in the world. It's a lot of fun.
No, it is. I haven't caught the second season yet, which I need to, but I did listen to the first season, and I thought it was hilariously funny.
Oh, thank you.
It was just nice listen when I'm laying here doing nothing.
Oh, that's what it's for. So I'm
But
glad
as
you
we can see
liked
in
it.
the background, we can see some of your awards on your mantelpiece.
Yeah, it's good having a mantelpiece, especially if it's in front of you, behind your computer screen, because then you're just like, oh, all these awards. I don't believe in. Some people are, oh, I put my Oscar in the toilet and use it as a doorstop. It's like, oh, well, can I have it then? I'll take any award that's going. If there's anybody OBEs going, any badges, Blue Peter badges, it all helps. It all looks good. It all fills up the CV and tricks people into thinking that you can do the work. So I recommend awards.
We've only ever won one,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's the city of Carlisle. We won for contributions to the city of Carlisle, but off the mayor.
Oh, that's good.
Only award I've ever won.
Even so, it's a worthwhile award since you are in Carlisle. Yeah, I've never been honoured by anywhere I've ever lived. No, wait, I did once. I went to Plymouth where I grew up and I did open. It's a bit hard to describe, really. The Beatles came to Plymouth. There's a picture of them up there, and they sat on Plymouth Hoe, which is the bit overlooking the sea. And then they went away again. And about 50 years later, an artist came along and they worked out where the Beatles had sat, and they made four bum prints out of metal. And you can now sit where the Beatles sat. And I opened, it doesn't sound right to say it, but I opened the Beatles' bottoms on. Oh, the sculpture is called Beetle Bum, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only time I've been honoured by a place where I used to live.
And with you being such a big Beatles fan, that'll have been an honour as well.
Well, it was great, yeah, because it's now the annoying thing is that picture I looked up the day. I would have been about 2 miles away at infant school. So
Ah,
I'm still annoyed with the Beatles for not coming to visit my school on their Magical Mystery tour. But you can't win.
that's brilliant. But yeah, what a fantastic honour to open Beatles bums.
I know it doesn't happen to everyone.
No, um, I've got to ask you that you've been reworking your Rocker Zombies and Mod Vampires script.
Yeah, I still have massively high hopes of that being made. But it never seems to happen. And yeah, it was just the idea was that in horror terms, mods are very like vampires. It struck me because vampires like to dress up, they're into fashion, they go out at night, they're kind of sexless mods. they were never really about having it off. They were always about posing. And I thought it'd be really interesting that if you were a vampire who came along in the 60s, you might see mods and think that really appeals to me because, you can live by night. That's actually a lyric from a Secret Affair song: live by night, sleep by day, wear cool clothes, and, drive around on a scooter murdering people. So then it was like, well, who would the enemies be? And I thought, well, rockers. I'm always on the side of rockers. I don't know which would you be, a mod or a rocker?
Oh, now if I was like my dad said he was a mocker. So, because there's bits of the culture of both I quite like, to be honest. I don't know. I
I
think
mean,
I'd
sorry.
probably go down the side of the vampires, the mods.
Really? Why would you do that?
Again, the clothes. I did do a little bit of a mod thing in the 80s, mod Parker, etc., etc. When it was, I was about 12.
Oh yeah, there was a.
um, so I'd have to say mods just because of that. I'd feel bad if I went rockers.
See, I don't think a rocker would have me, but nor would the mods. But it's weird because sort of British music is divided into mods and in rockers in the sense that you've got people like David Bowie, who every so often tried to be a rocker, but really wasn't. And he was very much in the mod camp. He was a mod, and so was Mark
Yeah,
Bolan. And but I'm always drawn to the rockers because I'm not very stylish. But I really like rock. And in my movie, in the script anyway, because the rockers don't really fit into anything. It doesn't make sense to have werewolf rockers naturally. I just thought that what if the rockers, the only way they could defend themselves against the vampire mods was to sacrifice some of their number and become zombies. And that kind of fits because if you think of a zombie in mod gear, it's a bit weird. But if you think of a zombie in leather jacket and jeans on a motorbike, that's kind of an acceptable horror trope. So that's the
yeah.
film, vampire mods versus zombie rockers. And of course, they have a big battle I live in Hastings, on Hastings Beach. And my favorite bit is in Hastings, there are these enormous fishing huts. They're really tall and narrow, and they're about 30 feet tall. And my wife, Jenna, said, what if at night the vampire mods slept in them like bats, hanging upside down? And I think that's a great image.
Yeah, it is actually. Fishtail parkers hanging down over the heads and things like that.
I think the dog is telling me there's someone at the door. I'll be back in a
I can cut that out. Just noticed your Pet Shop Boy Funkos behind you.
Yes, I don't collect Funkos, and my kids don't collect Funkos, but if you like the Pet Shop Boys, it's quite a good thing to have.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I like the Pet Shop Boys. I think they're definitely in the mod camp. I think you call them
I
mod.
think Electro Pop was definitely in the mod camp.
I think so. And the Pet Shop Boys have even got a song called "How I Learned to Hate Rock and Roll." So
There you go.
it's a fairly clear division.
And they did used to have pops at U2 quite often.
Oh yeah, they did. The story I heard was that when they did that U2 cover, Bono's official comment was, "What have I done to deserve this?" But his real comment was something on the lines of like, "It's like a Cortina with a Honda engine. It doesn't make any sense." And that was the unofficial quote. So I'm glad they upset Bono. It's always good.
I'm glad they upset Bono.
He has his moments, but no.
Upsetting people should be a national sport, should it not?
Yeah, I don't know. You two, they're not rockers, all mods. And that's the thing that's wrong with them.
Aye, there's the odd song I like, and that's about it with U2. I
Mhm.
don't see
Yeah.
the I don't see the big kind of draw.
No, they're not my sort of thing at all.
No, no, not at all. Um, so I do hope Rocker Zombies versus Mod Vampires gets made because I'd love to see it on the big screen.
Cheers. Yeah, I'd like it to be made. It's kind of had a lot of music in it, which is another thing I liked. Mod music and rock music. It sounded a bit odd at times, but yeah, there was a fantastic beach fight with the music of Status Quo. And of course, there's a lot of death songs, so that was fun doing a suitable soundtrack. So, you've got Don't Fear the Reaper on the rocker side. And on the mod side, an awful lot of things like Ghost Town and lots of
Yeah,
ska records about ghosts. There's a reggae song called Vampire I didn't put on because I didn't know it. But yeah, there's plenty of supernatural rock and mod music out there. I think I made
Leader of the
a
Pack.
playlist.
Leader of the
Sorry?
Pack wasn't about death.
Sorry?
Leader of the Pack. Was that about death?
Leader of the Pack is very much about death in that sort
Yeah,
of teen morbid records. There's a whole genre there. Tell Laura I Love Her, Leader of the Pack.
that's it.
Um,
That
Alice.
that scene from High John Cusack film about the record store,
Oh, High Fidelity. Yeah.
High Fidelity. That scene's just popped into my head with Leader of the Pack and Tell Laura I Love Her because of with Jack Black.
Oh, yeah. That was a good movie. A lot
Yeah,
of good observations in that with Darlene from Roseanne as a young goth buying a Stiff Little Fingers album. That was exciting.
I was excellent film, but I enjoyed the book more.
Oh, yeah. I preferred the film. Yeah, the film joins on the long list of surprising Bruce Springsteen cameos. There's a great scene when Bruce Springsteen turns up in John Cusack's bedroom, which is quite
That's right.
adorable.
Giving him advice.
Yeah, I must go and see High Fidelity again. It's a really good soundtrack. I had a cassette of it, which I bought on a trip to America and drove around America. Well, not all of it, but the West Coast a bit, listening to the soundtrack of High Fidelity, which is well worth owning.
Yeah, I tried to get it on vinyl, but the price of it is astronomical.
Well, that's vinyl for you.
That is true at the moment because yeah, I'm pleased I've got a decent vinyl collection before all this vinyl mania took off.
Hmm.
You know what I mean. What else was I going to ask you? Oh, that was it. Did you ever watch? I bought a vampire motorcycle that I sent you.
I haven't. I'm really sorry. It's in the pile. I must get around to it.
All right, not a problem at all. And I've got to ask, what did you think of my album?
I really liked it. It was really, yeah, I like the electronic sounds. So it was a good combination of melody and originality. So yeah, I'd recommend that to any buyer.
Ad Finum, Live and Learn, our first album. Well, our only album, to be fair. We do have a second album, but it was just demos. Never
Right.
got it.
That would
I'll
be,
get Rich and send you it.
that would be great. I would like to hear that. Thanks.
I think it was an improvement in some aspects, but
I look forward to hearing that.
we'd split and fell out by the time that came to us go back into a studio. It's one of those things. Anyways, back to the interview. As the man behind the Blagger's Guide to Bond, who was your favourite Bond?
Oh, it's always a tough question. It's like Doctor Who. There's been so many now. It used to be really easy.
Yeah,
The thing is, you're always reluctant to say Sean Connery, but to be honest, that is because that was the Bond when I was a kid, and that's the original. Well, it's not the original Bond, but because I think there'd been someone on the radio. But for me, James Bond
Bob
is
Holness played him on the radio.
sorry.
Bob Holness played him on the
Oh,
radio.
that's right. Yeah, and I think Roger Moore played him weirdly in a TV Bond even before that. But James Bond for me is the sort of 50s going into the 60s. These sort of sophisticated martinis, lots of sex, guns, not too many gadgets. Not a comedy, the odd witty remark, the odd put down, but basically that world of basically really being into rich people stuff and killing people and being a sadist. So a lot more like the books. And
Yeah,
then you had Roger Moore and, the comedy one. They're fun films, but they're stupid and pointless in a lot of ways. And after that, they were all great. They're a bit staid. Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan. I liked Pierce Brosnan a lot. Um, I actually remember I went to the cinema on a date, and it was GoldenEye. That's the first Pierce Brosnan.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
And there's an action sequence, and no one's seen James Bond for years. And the moment has sort of passed, and he's back. And there's an action sequence at the start, and at the end of it, I'm not making this up. Everybody cheered in the cinema because it was such a relief that James Bond was back, and they got it right. And then, of course, it went on, and then it went gammy, and
yeah,
because they always do, they go on too long, and then they just get in the killer robots and ridiculous stuff and space rockets. And Daniel Craig was good, and so on, but there's a template, and the template is Sean Connery. And if you're not Sean Connery, you're always trying to be like Sean Connery. And you're always referring the culture now of almost every aspect of entertainment is retro and reference. So
mm,
you can't watch, or for a time, you couldn't watch Doctor Who without going like, oh, that's the actual hand of Robotnov that was in episode 9, and somebody has just used Enter the TARDIS and said exactly what Sergeant Benton said in 1975. And it goes across the board. I'm seeing now people watching True Detective and literally saying things like, if you look in the background behind Jodie Foster, there's a piece of graffiti which first turned up in such and such a movie. It's like, that's great for the fans, but we're not all fans. It's like
yeah,
everything has to be laden with references and in jokes and Easter eggs. And when you watch I mean, I don't really watch it, but when you watch Star Wars, it's like flipping broken bits of other Star Wars movies stuck together by people with broken arms. So it's another reason I don't like Star Wars. So yeah, that's my review, and the short answer is Sean Connery.
we done a Bond episode a couple of years ago, and we voted um, Timothy Dalton.
Oh, he's cool.
He was my favourite Bond. Just, I think, License to Kill is absolutely a phenomenal film,
Mm.
and it's that darker, harder edge as well.
Oh yeah, I mean he can really act, and he has got the dark edge. There is something a bit spooky about him. Um, yeah,
He
I
was
totally
a return
agree
to
with
the
that.
colder Bond.
Sorry.
It was a return to the kind of colder Bond.
Yeah, I mean Bond is a shit. That's the whole point of James Bond. He is a killing machine, and giving him backstory of a true love. It's like, yeah, he wouldn't really be that bothered. If his girlfriend fell off a cliff, not that hard, he'd probably steal her car.
Yeah, that was very disappointing. That last Daniel Craig one, I must admit, with the whole killing him off and all of that kind of thing. It was just very disappointing. I was like, oh, why have they done this?
I did enjoy a lot of that. It was too long. It was too much going on. The other thing now is trying to bloody remember. Oh, okay, she was in the second to last one, and M's dead, and Le Chiffre's his cousin, and it's like you need a checklist. Whereas,
Yeah,
it used to be like that with Doctor Who. There's loads of history now. It used to be you turn on Doctor Who, there's a new villain. He's got a new assistant. You had no idea what was going on, but he's landed on a blue planet, and there's going to be aliens. It's the same with James Bond. He'd turn up, somebody would tell him what his mission was. He'd go and kill everyone and come home. And kind of miss that.
yeah. Bond with the lovely lady at the start and at the end, and
There's some
all that kind of thing.
there's a thing I need to find. Mike Myers did it, I think, in an interview about Austin Powers. And he had the rules of Bond. He'd watched so many, he'd really worked it out. And the only thing I can remember is that the second death has to be the death of one of his opponents who is killed with his own weapon. So the classic one is Odd Job, killed with his own hat.
Yeah,
Possibly, I think Dr. No loses his hands. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, Mike Myers really got the rules of Bond. And I like rules.
yeah, yeah. In films, it does help. And Mike Myers' parody, really, with Bond and other 60s spies, was just absolutely fantastic with the Austin Power films.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think they went off at the very end because he wanted to play all the characters and he
Yeah.
wanted to play more characters. So by the end, you're just watching Mike Myers talking to himself and it's a bit much. But yeah, they were really well. There's something about one of my theories is the 90s because you've got the Berlin Wall coming down in about 1989 and you don't have 9/11 until 2000. Was it 2000? I can't remember. You've got these two
2000.
events. The world is grim on either side, but in the middle, you've got the 90s when they're for the only time there isn't a massive bogeyman hanging around. There's no Russia, there's no
No,
Osama bin Laden. And the 90s to me looks a bit like your logo. It's full of sort of bright colors, people being a bit hippie-ish, but they've actually been taking different drugs, loads of really good dance music, loads of interesting rock music, great pop music. It's the era of the Spice Girls and stuff like that.
yeah.
90s is a really underrated decade. And Austin Powers, despite its setting, is a brilliant 90s movie. And yeah, you could make a great, we mentioned John Cusack earlier, you could make a great list of 90s movies that
Oh,
have just
completely.
got just kind of a liberated, funny spirit to them.
Dazed and Confused, Empire Records,
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
Clueless. There's a lot of rock and
yeah.
comedy, a lot of Mike Myers, So I Married an Axe Murderer. There's a classic movie.
Do you know something? I was just watching clips of that this morning,
Oh, yeah.
and it was all this stuff with his dad, the
Oh,
Piper's
God, yeah.
Down, and
It's
I just thought it was so funny.
it's such a great movie. It's before Austin Powers, but he's got all the mannerisms, with what is this? A cup of coffee. The dad, the Scottish dad, it's like held in check. He's only playing one extra character. Yeah, me and my friends used to just quote that Piper down, Eid, all that stuff. It's
He
got the
knew.
best, it's got the best ever cameo with Albert. Is it Albert Brooks? Yeah, it's Albert Brooks as the guy who gives his friend a lift. And this is my favorite moment in a movie when his mate is drumming his fingers on the dashboard of the car. And Albert Brooks goes, "Would you mind not doing that?" And his friend goes, "Does it annoy you?" He goes, "No, it's my favorite thing in the world." It's just a really, really good movie. Yeah. It was sort of from that sort of golden age when Mike Myers could do nothing wrong.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can remember seeing it for the first time, cinema. Me and the lads went a bit worse for wear slightly and thought it was hilarious, and I still watch it to this day.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth watching. It's got,
And it was the first place you mentioned the Pentaveret.
yes, I heard about this because yeah, I'm obviously more aware of that now. And when I watched it again, is that weird moment when Brenda Fricker suddenly mentioned it's never mentioned again, but it's like, oh, he's into the Pentaveret, they're all controlling the world. And it's like, what? And obviously it was a private joke that sort of expanded since, but that was a really interesting little Easter egg that he had planted that seed as far back as the 90s.
Yeah, I thought that when the Pentaveret came out, I went, hang on, that was mentioned in. This is clever. This has taken a long time for him to get this to fruition.
He's obviously been working on it because he lost a movie. There was a movie called Sprockets, which was about a German, I think, a fashion designer called Dieter, which he used to do on Saturday Night Live. And that was,
Film critic, wasn't it?
sorry,
Was he a film critic?
was he? I can't remember. But it was set to be his next movie after Wayne's World or Austin Powers, and it never happened. And I think he was quite bitter and twisted about it. But obviously, he'd been working on the Pentaveret idea for decades, which is fascinating.
Yeah. I know it fell on its ass, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I just couldn't face all the different characters, but maybe one day I'll get around to it.
It's not. It's quite enjoyable. Um, Going back to the Bond thing, I've got to ask you your favourite Bond girl. We've done your favourite Bond girl.
Oh, that's easy. It's slightly a cheat because we were watching. about half an hour of On Her Majesty's Secret Service last night. It was just on the telly. And there's just a scene where he's supposed to be boring the pants off all these beautiful women in a Swiss mountain resort in character. And they're all basically, oh, why doesn't he fancy us? And the implication is that he's in character as a herald. And the implication is his character, Sir Hilary, is gay. And that's why he doesn't fancy all these hot women. And as he leaves the room, and they're all being treated for allergies as part of the bigger plot.
Yeah.
So they're all able to eat things they couldn't. And as James Bond, George Lazenby, Sir Hilary, leaves the room, a woman looks at her mates and says, I know what his allergy is, which obviously means women, he's gay.
Yeah.
And it's Joanna Lumley. So she's my favourite Bond girl.
There we go. Just a little cameo.
Yeah, probably her only acting. I think she did a bit of acting, but mostly modelling. And yeah, she sounds great. She's got the voice. And who knew what she would become? But yeah, in terms of, so who's your favourite Bond girl?
My favourite Bond girl, I'm partial to Madeline Smith at the start of Live and Let Die.
Oh, is she in that?
Yeah, right at the start. She's the girl who Bond's with.
Oh, right. Because no, she's gorgeous. I always, obviously, everybody did, but she was in everything when I was a kid. She was in sitcoms and the Two Ronnies, obviously. Yeah, she was very beautiful. She seems to be around. What I like about the internet is that people get sort of revived, and she seems to be on social media quite a lot, or at least in photographs on social media a lot. So I'm glad she's got the recognition.
Well, I'm hoping, believe it or not, to get her on the show.
Oh, well, that would be great.
Working behind the scenes with somebody who knows her. And he's hoping to he's been on the show already and is hopefully going to get her on the show for us.
That is amazing.
Which would be great.
Good luck with that. I hope it goes well.
Yeah, so do I, to be honest. And your favourite Bond villain? We're sticking with Bond for a little while here. You can see
sure, that's fine. Favourite Bond villain? God, there's so many. I think my least favourite used to be Jaws because it was just the films going silly, and he would be in you know, you don't have the same Bond villain in a sequel. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to be old school and say Odd Job, just because he was such a great character. You know, like big, heavy sumo wrestler looking guy with a bowler hat, which was lead lined, and it's just such an inefficient weapon. You know, if the only way you can kill someone is to stand a certain distance away from them and throw a metal hat at them in the hope that it severs their throat. And also, he's a massive sort of sumo wrestler. You just think must be loads of other ways that he could kill someone.
Yeah, true. But he likes to throw his bowler hat.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the problem with Jaws a bit because, you know, yeah, he's huge and could probably strangle you, but he's got this biting thing.
Yeah.
He's got to bite you. It's quite hard to kill someone biting them, I would have thought.
Well, unless you rip the throats out, I suppose.
But that could take a while. And that's quite nasty. So who's your... Sorry, go on.
It's got to be, I think, Kamanga from Live and Let Die.
Oh, yeah, he was...
Baron Samedi.
Baron Samedi's pretty good, yeah.
Because I think Live and Let Die is one of my favourites because I like the whole blaxploitation vibe and the whole voodoo vibe.
No, I mean, that really, of course, has got a Paul McCartney theme. Finally, the Beatles and Bond together. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a bit silly, but it's got the blaxploitation thing, and it's a very American Bond, you know, Felix Leiter. There's lots of stuff set. The New Orleans funeral scene is really good, if memory serves me right, which it doesn't. Yeah, it's the first Roger Moore, so it's got a lot of new Bond energy.
Yeah, definitely.
I've remembered my favourite villains because people forget about Moonraker. Moonraker was the first Bond I saw at a cinema in St. Ives when I was a kid, and I can still remember the Shirley Bassey theme booming out of the cinema. So they obviously didn't have soundproof walls. But the two villains in that, whose names escape me, the two very obviously gay psychopathic villains, Mr. Somebody, Mr. Somebody Else,
Oh, yes. I can't think of the bloody names, but I know who you mean.
they, I mean, now I think they're sort of beyond the pale a bit because there was sort of implication that two gay men are villains was considered a bit iffy. Or they must be villains, they're gay. Um, but they were really good. They were genuinely creepy and looked a bit wrong. They looked a bit like Steely Dan, thinking about it.
Looks a bit like Steely Dan. That's fantastic.
They do, definitely. If you get pictures of Steely Dan and get pictures of Mr. Thing and Mr. What's the name, I'm going to look it up while I'm talking. But yeah. Oh, and they also had the weird attackers. Oh, not Moonraker. I'm so sorry. What's it flipping called? Diamonds
Diamonds
Forever.
Mr. Wint.
Mr. Wint, yeah. And his mate.
Bruce Glover.
Yeah.
Father of George McFly.
Is he?
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd. That's their names. They are so fantastic. And they do, I'm just looking at them now, they do actually look a lot like Steely Dan, Becker and Fagan.
Next time,
Sorry.
I've tried to get Bruce Glover a few times. He's shared a few reviews I've done. Next time,
Of
I'm
course,
speaking
Bruce Glover,
to
Crispin Glover, yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And Crispin Glover was, what villain was he? Was he cut out? I know he's cut out of Back to the Future, but he was in Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels. He played that weird villain who sniffed the hair and things.
Yeah, he basically played his dad. That's really cool. The Glover family. No, he's really good. He's really good in Charlie's Angels, but he's doing that thing that actors do where they just ignore the movie. You know, Charlie's Angels it's a light-hearted comedy thriller, and he's just, I'm not doing that. I'm bringing my psychopath game.
And he does, and he done the Willard remake as well, which was quite good.
I don't know that. I've not seen the original either.
All about the rats. Michael Jackson done Ben.
God, right. Yeah, I read Willard when I was a kid because I thought it would be like Flowers for Algernon. But yes, I must check that one out.
Yeah, the original Willard's excellent. Bruce Davidson, I think it is in the original.
All right.
I might be wrong. That's just from the top of my head. And like you, my memory is absolutely terrible.
What did you say? So I want to finish a bit more about Diamonds Are Forever because you've got the weird cowboy millionaire. You've got the Moon Rovers. That's why I get it mixed up because of the Moon Rover, which I actually had the Corgi Moon Rover, where he's in an astronaut training area and steals a Moon Rover. But also you've got the really cool sex villains. You've got Bambi and Thumper, the two women who try and kill him with their thighs.
I see. It's got a lot of mad moments in Diamonds Are Forever when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. You know, it's weird because it's the return of Sean Connery, and he doesn't want to.
That's what today. Wasn't that the return of Sean Connery after on Her Majesty's?
Yeah, he's got a little wig. And I was obviously at the time I was unaware of this. You know, it's just James Bond.
Yeah,
but it's fine. You know, I'm rambling a bit, but I even like Never Say Never Again.
I was just about to mention Never Say Never Again because his wigs cost about £1 million. I would expect for that film.
Wow. Which is kind of what's the point of that? Because everyone knows he's a slaphead.
Yeah, by this point in the 80s, everyone knows he's bald. But so he still wore those wigs.
Bizarre. Yeah, because that's a weird film. Never Say Never Again. It's a remake of Thunderball.
Yeah.
But they didn't call it Thunderball. And it's got ill-advised, I think, Rowan Atkinson as a not needed comedy. I presume he plays Q.
It is, yeah. He calls himself Quartermaster.
Right.
Q.
Yeah, it's kind of not really needed. And I think. Sorry.
Kim Basinger's the Bond girl in that one.
That's kind of cool, but you kind of don't. I think one of the Bond rules is the Bond girl becomes famous for being a Bond girl.
Yeah.
And she was famous already. No, I just wanted to say finally about Rowan Atkinson. I think Sean Connery seems genuinely irritated in the scenes with him, as opposed to the
It's a
pretend.
long time since I watched Never Say Never. I'll have to have a rewatch of it.
Yeah, I need to watch. I've only seen it, I think, once on telly. But yeah, normally Q and Bond have a kind of sparring
Good,
relationship. But I
yeah.
think Sean Connery actually hated him in this. I could be wrong. They could be best mates for all I know.
And last of all, with the Bond thing, favorite Bond theme. Being a who loves music, I've got to ask you your favorite Bond theme.
Well, in fact, the best Bond theme is the proper Bond theme, the much disputed one. I interviewed John Barry once and I said, "So, what's all this then about you and Monty Norman?" And he'd lost the case. So, the Bond theme is officially written by Monty Norman. And John Barry just said to me, "I will just ask you this. What else has Mr. Norman done in his career?" And it's like, oh, interesting point. I mean, the answer is I have no idea.
No,
But
I was going to say I haven't got a clue.
But my favourite Bond, apart from the actual Bond theme, my favourite Bond song, and there are a lot, is definitely, well, On Her Majesty's again, We Have All the Time in the World. Absolutely astonishing song. Bit of a shocker for a Bond song, since normally the songs are basically like called Big Penis Man. Pretty much every single Bond theme, particularly the Shirley Bassey ones, are about, he is good at shagging and he's the best. So the sad ones are kind of nice. The Spy Who Loved Me, sorry, Nobody Does It Better.
Oh, great, great Bond theme.
Great Bond theme. The worst example of the titles in the lyrics when she sings, "The Spy Who Loved Me."
Yeah.
Sounds really, yeah. They do go a bit bobbins in the eight. I don't think I think you can say with confidence there are no good Bond themes after For Your Eyes Only, Sheena Easton, which is pretty good.
Um, for me, it's got to be obviously Live and Let Die
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic.
and License to Kill, Gladys Knight.
Oh, I don't really know that one. There is, there's the rejected ones are good. The Radiohead one for Spectre is good. There's a Scott Walker one that wasn't used. And I think there's one called Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Aye, there was a Pulp one as well. Pulp didn't get used.
Oh, really? Because I know they did All Time High for a charity for a David Arnold album.
Aye, I think Pulp didn't get used for one. And I can't remember which one it was.
Oh, that's interesting. I would not pick, no offense, I love them, but I would not pick Pulp to do a James Bond theme.
No, I think that's possibly. I think it was 90s,
Well, it would have to be, yeah.
2000s, something like that. I can't think what it was.
I mean, it
But
would be nice to speculate on bands who should have done one. I mean, I like Magazine from the post-punk era, who actually did cover Goldfinger. There's a lot of bands should have done Bond themes.
mm, there's some that when you've heard, some that have done covers of Bond themes, and you went, well, actually, they would have been good doing an actual Bond theme.
Yeah, there's a few of those. Well, the David Arnold album, again from the 90s, called Shaken Not Stirred, which I used to have in a little tin, is really good. Propeller Heads. You remember them sort of dancey?
History repeating was with
Shirley Bassey.
Shirley Bassey.
Yeah. And they did something with Billy No, yeah, but they did one of Spacewalk, I think. Yeah. Really good sort of background. Yeah, so there's some good stuff on that David Arnold album. I definitely recommend
Yeah.
it. But loads of people have done We Have All the Time in the World. Nancy Sinatra, Mark Almond.
Mm.
I'm going to look it up in a bit. But yeah.
Travis do a decent Nobody Does It Better. So does Radiohead.
That makes sense.
I've heard them both do that. I actually got a copy of the Travis one somewhere, and I've listened to it quite often. I'm trying to think. But I think my favourites have got to be Live and Let Die and License to Kill. Gladys Knight can't beat her voice.
No, she's pretty good. I will check that one out. So on the David Arnold album, um, Iggy Pop does "We Have All the Time in the World," which is a good move. Space March is by Left Field, which is well worth checking out. The rest, I'm just going to say, oh, Diamonds Are Forever by David McAlmont. That is very good. It's a very good
Oh,
call.
yeah, I can remember that one.
And yeah, Pulp doing All Time High, which is slightly muted, but it's not the best song in the world, in my humble opinion.
No, I was never a fan of that one at all. Was that Rita Coolidge?
Yes, it was
Yeah,
perfectly decent singer, but not a Bond singer. You really need a drama queen like Tom Jones or
yeah.
Shirley Bassey. Like on
Mind
this,
you, Adele's was pretty lackluster, Skyfall, and it reminded me of Diamonds Are Forever.
it wasn't a great song. I mean, also, yeah, I hate it when it's a kind of again back reference thing because you too wrote one for Tina Turner, and that was kind of
They did Goldeneye.
GoldenEye, which is fine, but it's a crap Goldfinger.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. It's just a Goldfinger reboot.
Diamonds Are Forever
Uh,
works because it's got the sparkly bits. Um, yeah, the
Jack
world.
White. His Bond theme for Quantum of Solace, which was a terrible film, but the Bond theme was good. Jack White and what's her
Is it
name?
Alicia Keys?
Alicia Keys.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, I would say my only criticism was it didn't sound at all like a Bond theme, which
No,
I'm sure was what he was after. John Barry told me that the people he least liked were Aha. He didn't like Duran Duran, and he really hated Aha. I think because they wouldn't collaborate; they just wanted to do their song.
right.
You know,
Well,
and
that's Aha, like one of the biggest bands in the 80s, weren't they? So they'll have probably disappeared up their own asses.
they were opinion. I liked. I met them. They had that nice, dry Nordic sense of humor. Don't like Duran Duran though, but there we go.
Mind you, funnily enough, I heard a Duran Duran Black Sabbath mashup last night.
Oh, blimey. What were the songs?
Duran Sabbath. And it was Rio and Paranoid
Blimey. That's
mixed. It was quite, I enjoyed it, to be honest. I don't mind Duran Duran.
that sounds
So I
fun.
enjoyed it.
I do
We
mind
like the
Duran
mashup.
Duran. I must say though, I haven't heard a mashup for about 15 years. They were the biggest thing in the world in the 2000s, and then
Oh,
suddenly
there were. And there was some great ones done as well.
there was two. Yeah, I loved them. There's a bloke called Mark Vidler did a lot of good ones, and there was obviously too many DJs
Yeah.
who just had a real knack for it. But then just mashups just suddenly disappeared. I have no idea why.
Yeah, but very, very thick. Moving on from Bond.
Hmm.
Now, I've heard Rob Brydon does an impression of you.
Yes, he does. Do you want to hear
How,
it?
what is this impression?
His impression is basically goes, I've got an impression of you, Dave. And then he goes, or and that's it. That's the impression.
That's the impression.
That's the whole impression. He just goes, or
That's there you go. Rob Brydon has
I mean, yeah, he's saving a lot of money there.
that's it. Man of many voices, and his impression of you is just R.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with him, except I never say R. But then, so I'm on the list of impressions with Al Pacino in Rob's list, which is
In
a
his
great honor.
catalogue of impressions, there's David Quantick.
He probably doesn't get many requests for that one at gigs.
No, probably not. Now, obviously, you were one of the writers on Veep.
Yes.
That excellent show that you won an Emmy for. What are your favourite American sitcoms, and what era was your favourite?
Oh, that's easy. My favorite era would be the 90s for American sitcoms. I wasn't really aware of them in the 70s. In the 80s, they were all a bit kind of, hi, Dad. There were some great shows in the 80s, but I can't remember them. But for me, the golden age was the 90s because there were two shows. One is Frasier, which gets talked about all the time. Obviously, Cheers was fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and Frasier was brilliant. Frasier really contains a kind of bitchy, gay sense of humor. There were a lot of gay writers on it, a lot of gay cast members. And if you look at 1930s screwball comedies like The Thin Man and movies like All About Eve and the play The Man Who Came to Dinner, all this stuff has got a real waspish verbal sense of humor in the Oscar Wilde tradition. It's full of
yeah.
saying funny things, lots of bitchy gags, but gags anyway. And I loved that in Frasier. It was a fantastic show. Um, but the show that I absolutely loved that really, for some reason, meant a lot to me was Roseanne.
Because it was kind of more working class humor.
Yeah, and that was, I'm not working class, but it was brilliantly done. I mean, it was, we say now, empowering because it said, right, working class people aren't thick, working class people aren't idiots, working class people are funny and intelligent, and there's comedy in real problems. You know, you can
Yeah,
talk about unemployment, you can talk about family issues, you can talk about all this stuff and still be funny. And Roseanne had the best lines. It was so witty. There's a line in one of the episodes, somebody said, he's stupid. How stupid is he? He's so stupid that the light from stupid won't reach him for another million years. I just remember I imagine someone making that joke in a writer's room and everyone else just giving them gold and diamonds. And I am aware that Roseanne Barr is not what you'd call the kind of person you'd like to hang around with these days. She's out there, to say the least, and the things she said are terrible. But when they brought back Roseanne for the very brief one season before she went doolally, it was great. It still had it. And what was amazing, what was a great thing that I so miss was that Jackie, the sister, the ditzy one, was a Hillary Clinton Democrat, and Roseanne was a Trump Republican. And it was just a great way to talk about that stuff. Instead of saying
yeah.
Trump people are scum, you know, if you like Donald Trump, you are worse than filth or whatever. They had this great, it was a conversation going on, which you don't have now. And then
Oh,
I also recommend, because I was able to watch it for a while, The Connors. She went and they just killed her off. And they made it
it's
about the family.
it's still going on at the moment. I think this is the last season.
Oh, really? I must try and check it out because the cast
Yeah,
are amazing. And yeah, Roseanne was just really special. And it wasn't just, I don't know, it wasn't just like working class people eat potatoes and no imagination. It wasn't aimed at, you know, just trad comedy. It had so many in jokes. My favorite moment ever was when there were two girls who played Becky, the daughter.
yeah.
One of them left, she was replaced, and then she came back. And they announced this. They didn't announce it, but they just had a post-credit song called "There Are Two Beckys," which was like a 1950s style. There are two Beckys, one in da da da.
Didn't they both appear in a scene together as well?
They in the Connors. They're both characters brilliantly. One of them is a
Right.
therapist, which is
I mean,
just yeah. Go on.
Roseanne was just must-watch TV back in the 80s and the 90s,
It was amazing.
and
And
the Halloween episodes were fantastic.
oh God, I've forgotten that. Yeah, because it was always what they're going to wear, what they're going to do. And there was a
Yeah,
period when Tom Arnold and Sarah Bernhard were in it. And it was just, they were allowed to bring out a bit more of the edginess because there's a documentary worth finding about Roseanne and just about that world. And there's a bit where she's in a meeting and she says, the network thought this was a show about two fat people. And it was
yeah.
working, but it was kind of, it had a heart and it was like kind of dull. I just remember watching one episode and the kids are being bad. And Roseanne just saying, I got something to tell you, kid. I'm not your real mother. And that was just the tone of it. It was not heartwarming. There were no hugs.
No, it was like your proper family. It
Yeah,
was like what the kind of things you'd get up to with your own family.
and it was extreme, and yeah, it had that slight, not nastiness, but it had that kind of gloves off thing that, yeah, when you're with your family, people do shout at you. People aren't nice all the time. People are tired and people are rude. And it compares, if you compare it to the royal family, which was not a show for me, but which was brilliant, I have to acknowledge that. Royal Family had this lovely sort of lazy, woozy tone. It was about
Yeah.
what people really do, which is sit on their arse and watch television and go, oh, he's rubbish. But Roseanne had that proper American sitcom mania. It was fast. It was like a Bob Hope film. It was fast paced and fast talking. I keep remembering lines from it. There's a line when Roseanne's trying to get off work for something, and she says to her boss, Leon, who's I think he's gay, I'm pretty sure he's gay. And Roseanne says, I don't want to, I didn't want to do that. And Leon just says, listen, lady, I wanted to be Judy Garland. We don't get everything in life. And it's just that heightened realism. Your boss wouldn't say that in real. And
No,
this is to rant on a bit of a bugbear of mine that naturalistic comedy, you know, people saying things they say in real life is a bit boring. I want people to say things on telly that I've never thought about.
yeah, yeah, because it's supposed to be a heightened reality of what we are.
Exactly, that's what all good movies should be, horror movies, whatever. The bloke who did Poor Things, those films are insane.
I
Films
haven't
should,
watched that yet. I've got it to watch, Poor
yeah.
Things, but
I've got a long train journey coming up. I'm saving it for that so I can watch it on the laptop and have to hide, presumably, the screen every time some children come past. If it's like his
I
films.
well, yeah, true. And there's Lisa Frankenstein, which is a similar kind of thing,
Oh, right. That
but
might be worth a look.
set in the 80s and more teen.
Ooh, could be good.
I think she digs up a bloke and brings him back.
Oh, I like the premise.
I've not watched it yet. It's on Amazon Prime. So yeah, Lisa Frankenstein.
I'll give it a go. Is it in one of it's in the tradition of Teen Wolf?
Oh, I don't know, but that'd be good. It looks excellent, I must admit. I believe, and it's was it directed and written by Diablo Cody, Jennifer's Body.
Oh, I have no idea who that is. Sorry.
All right, she won an Oscar for oh bloody hell, it was a one word titled film that Elliot Page was in.
Oh yeah,
Juno,
Juno. Juno is a great movie. Yeah.
Diablo Cody wrote that.
Oh, yeah, because I had sort of wondered what had happened to her.
But she's done this Lisa Frankenstein. She's also done a great horror film with um, oh Megan Fox in called Jennifer's Body.
Right.
Is a black comedy as well. Black horror comedy, should I say.
Well, I'll have a look for that. Yeah. So yeah, films I've got for that. I've got that. I've got Shiva Baby to watch. I've also got recommend if you haven't seen it, Bottoms, which
Oh,
is
I haven't seen that. Sheba Baby's excellent.
well, I'm watching that on my train. Bottoms is by literally the same people, Emma Seligman and Rachel Sennett. I'm looking it up as you
Right.
can tell, and it's literally it's like a John Waters movie made by teenage girls. It's insane and really funny, and recommended.
Have you seen, talking about stuff that we need to watch, have you seen Totally Killer?
No, I'm aware of it. I was thinking about
Back to
watching
the
that.
Future meets Scream.
Yeah, I might give that a go.
That's on Amazon Prime as well. Excellent. Freak is another high concept one as well,
Oh yeah.
with um, Vince Vaughn playing a
Oh,
serial killer.
oh yes, I know that. I know that. I was tempted by that as well.
Horror version of Freaky Friday, basically.
It's a really good idea.
It's excellent. It's superb. And the cast is fantastic when they switch. And you've got Vince Vaughn being the teenage girl, and it's hilarious.
I'm
And the
gonna.
same guy wrote "It's a Wonderful Knife,"
It's a
which
very
is a Christmas themed slasher, which came out just Christmas gone. And you can see where the high concept is with that.
Oh, I like that. I'm watching The Kid Detective at the moment, which is not horror, but is just a really nice concept of a guy who, when he was 12, was like an Enid Blyton style detective solving little crimes at high school. And then someone got a, a schoolmate of his was abducted, and obviously everything. And now he's basically an alcoholic in his 30s, and he's a joke figure in the town, and everyone is just laughing at him. And he gets asked by a kid to solve a murder. Absolutely, really recommend that. The Kid Detective. It's on Prime and other
Oh
places.
well, I'll have a look at that. Um, I've just been watching recently. I've just been watching a shed load of the Bill and One Piece anime.
Oh yeah, is that good?
Oh, absolutely fantastic! And for Japanese animation, there's no tentacles and schoolgirls and all that kind of thing, which is great. And it's a fun anime. I've got 1,000 episodes of it, and I'm 910 in. So I've done a lot of watching.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, well, as I say, I've only got 90 episodes or something left of it. Um, but when you've got all the time in the world, you know what I mean, you can kind of watch all these things. And I'm 15 seasons in of the Bill.
That is impressive. So who's in the bill now?
Um, the Bill, it's 1999. Boyden's still there, Ackland's still there, Carver's still there, Stamp Quinnen, Smith has just started, Cass Rickman started, Burnside keeps popping back and forth.
Oh, blimey.
Beach hasn't been caught for being a dirty copper yet. Um, Santini's just been arrested for his dealings and murder and things like that, which is the copper. Yeah, so it started with me and a mate talking about the pilot episode.
Right.
Looking top, I thought I want to watch that again. Found it on YouTube. I'm now 15 and a half seasons in.
That is very impressive. I can
Well,
watch
you know,
it.
all the time in the world. Um, and just record podcasts now and again. So we've done the sitcoms. I think I've asked you this before, but I couldn't remember. Um, you done some writing on the Brass Eye Peter Geddon,
Yes.
the file special. Um, how did your involvement come about for that excellent special, which
Oh,
I still watch quite often?
well, I just knew Chris, me and my writing partner then, Jane Bussman, had written on Brass Eye, the series, just before that, and Jam. And I'd met Chris on the Hour in 1989 or whenever it was. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we were asked to write on it and sort of told that it might be a bit more controversial. And I know that some people, I was told, didn't want to be involved with it. I won't name names. They thought it was a bit much. But yeah, it was just another thing. It was another Chris Morris thing. We didn't really think about it at the time because everything Chris does always had bits cut off. Most of the episodes of the Brass Eye series lost 3 minutes. You know, when they went out, if you look at the original TV schedules, they always end up having a cartoon shown after them because Channel 4 just cut stuff at the last minute.
I hate that. I hate censorship completely.
I'm sure they're all on the DVDs or the online versions.
Yeah. I'll have to have a
But
look. It's been a while since I watched Brass Eye, but the series, but the Peter Geddon. It's just so funny. The disguise of the paedophile dressed as a house.
Oh yeah, no, it's a brilliant program. And famously, well, the first time it was shown went out without any comment. Hardly anybody watched it, and they repeated it after the first ever episode of. Can you guess what?
Oh, I don't know.
Big Brother.
Oh, well, there you go. Everybody will have been
So
watching it.
everybody stayed on after Big Brother to have a cup of tea, and they had the Big Brother audience. So they had a massive, basically an ITV audience, rather than nine students who quite liked the day to day, and that's where all the trouble came from.
And it was in the papers, I can remember, and oh, the controversy. But personally, I sat there pissing myself laughing.
It was very good.
It is absolutely superb. Um, and I know you like next up. I know you like your comic books. What's been your favourite comic book adaptation? And do you think the era of superhero movies is over?
Oh, I don't know about adaptations. Oh yeah, I mean, I suppose it doesn't really count, but the Watchmen reboot they did about 5 years ago on the telly with the guy who did the
Oh
leftovers.
yes, yes.
That was really good. That was a really good example of how to take something and without remaking it, use the ideas behind it and the spirit of it. And I know Alan Moore hated it, but he hates everything to do with
Everything.
this, everything. And they did a really good job of just changing it slightly, making it about the race issues in the United States. And yeah, it's definitely something I've got to revisit. Things that I would like to see adapted and I would like to do myself would be Zenith, the Grant Morrison thing from the 90s. I don't know if you ever read that.
Don't think I did.
It was in 2000 AD, and it was a brilliant joke that Zenith was a young, good looking superhero who was also a pop star and had absolutely zero interest in helping the world. He just used his superpowers to impress women and, get to top of the pops early. And he was a twat. It was a fantastic joke. And they just wrote, because it was Grant Morrison and he's quite dark and apocalyptic, he was approached by various older superheroes from the days of, proper superheroes to fight basically an intergalactic Nazi H.P. Lovecraft death cult. And there's an episode of it where, because 2000 AD had got the rights to all these classic 60s British comic book characters,
Yeah.
Billy the Cat, the Steel Claw, real things that were massive nostalgia prods for me. So I'm contradicting myself. And Grant Morrison just slaughtered them. He took all these beloved 1960s comic book characters and he had them murdered by evil beasts from a different dimension. If you can get hold of a collected Zenith, just the
I'll
comic.
have to. I'm definitely gonna have to look into that and see if I can find a collected Zenith because that sounds fantastic. And I've never
Really
read it.
worth it.
2000 AD, but I think if it was the later 80s, I'll have kind of moved over more onto the American comics.
Well, the thing was, it was lucky was that, well, for Zenith anyway, it came out at, I know it came out in the mid, yeah, it must have been the 90s. I can't remember, but anyway, it's also the art by Steve Yoel is fantastic. I don't know much else he's done, but he's really good, really suited. The stories, lots of black and white and shadows. Oh, also, there's a character from the 60s. Oh, sorry, I do love it. The character from the 60s called Robot Archie. You may or may not
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, I know who you mean.
Robot Archie discovers ecstasy. Robot Archie is an acid house freak. It is honestly just, I mean, don't even have to buy it. Just Google Zenith Robot Archie. The pictures will make your day.
That's fantastic. Absolutely love it. So, and do you think that the year of the superhero movie is over, or are we just
Well,
in a bit of a lull at the moment? Personally, I've enjoyed them all, even the bad ones.
I am not sure. I think the current age is over because the Marvel ones, they had all that Thanos stuff, and I'm not a huge fan of the mega movies, but they reached a point. They had the big battle, brought everyone together, and then they didn't give us any time to get on board with superheroes again.
Mm.
It is, and I admire their planning, but they planned it like a war, and the relentless series and crossovers and having all the different movies work really well. But be nice to have a break. And just it's bizarre that DC seem to not really be able to do it. And I think they're maybe biased. The problem is humor. Because when I was
Well,
go on.
sorry. I think James Gunn's going to inject that humor back into the DCU.
I hope so, because Batman and Superman were always, they started off, they didn't start off, but in the 50s and 60s, they were funny. They
Yeah.
had daft stories. That's when the Joker turned up. And we had the Wave of Darkness with Frank Miller and Alan Moore. That was great. But the Tim Burton Batman is the best movie Batman, the first one. The Richard, whoever it is, Christopher Reeve Superman is the best Superman because there's humor in there. There's humor and romance and death and destruction. The Batman versus Superman movie, I think they show it as punishment in some jails now.
I've watched the full Justice League, the 4.5 hour mega Zack Snyder cut,
Right.
and I've watched it 4 times just to see why I didn't like it.
Oh,
I
really?
couldn't understand why I didn't enjoy, because I love all these characters
Hmm.
and I grew up reading these characters, and to see them all together, and it was just too poor faced,
Yeah.
too dark, too black, too dark brown.
Well, that's the other thing, the color palette. I mean, it's weird when you watch a Superman movie from the 70s and it is because the thing was comic book colors. Let's make it like a comic book.
Yeah,
But I blame the Dark Knight. I love the Dark Knight, but the Frank Miller one is just blue and grey.
yeah,
Hardly any
great,
colors.
great story though.
Even, even the Joker, he's got muted lipstick, which is quite hard to do. Muted green hair.
Yeah.
But
Did you
yeah,
ever see the animateds they made?
did I visit? No, I've never seen the animated ones.
Oh, they've done a 2-part animated, fantastic, and sticks as close, obviously, to the books as they could.
Oh, that's good. I might check
Yeah,
that out. I was once in a meeting for Veep and I met a guy who goes, "Hi, I'm Diedrich." And I'm like, "Oh." And I went and looked him up and he was Batman. So I've actually met Batman, which is kind of cool. The animated Batman, anyway.
right, right. Which we oh, I know Dietrich Bader.
Yeah.
He played him in, was it the Brave and Bold
I don't.
cartoon? I can't remember, but yeah, he's a good actor as well. Funny guy.
Cool.
He nearly gets um Jane Silent Bob to
All
have
right.
remains in, is it Jane Silent Bob Strike Back?
I can't remember.
It's the Jane Silent Bob movie, the big one they've done. I can't remember the title, but he's in that one as well. Great actor. I've seen him in a few things.
So that's two
Um,
Batmans then, because they've got Ben Affleck in one of them as well.
oh yeah. Which one was Ben Affleck in? Batman v Superman, Justice League, and he's in the Flash,
Oh yeah, God, the Flash.
which was all right, but it could have been better. It was just nice to see Michael Keaton back.
That was good, but that really made me kind of sad. Not sad, but it's just they were just every time the film was boring, they'd go, "Look, Michael Keaton," and it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
but it's like you don't. Well, you do probably get it, but it's like Batman. The Batman movies aren't good because Michael Keaton's in them. They're good because of everything. You know, Michael
Yeah,
Keaton was an amazing Batman, and when we know him from his other films, it's even more. It's like, blimey, he's a comedian.
yeah.
Again, proves my theory. The funniest Batman is a comedian.
There you go. And it should be like that. Um, Before we go, because I've had you for a good hour and a bit, and I don't want to keep you too long because I know you're a very very busy man. Um, I've got to ask you. Oh, it was just in my head there. Oh bloody hell, it's gone. Oh, what have you got coming out? Anything good, new?
Well, obviously, I'm working on the horror movie that we can't talk about.
That's fine.
But we hope, but if it happens, it will be filmed in June. So probably we'll know about that fairly soon. But what I've been doing the last few months, because I haven't had a great deal of work apart from the radio, is writing up all the ideas that I've had for months and months and years. And also, I've been trying to get books published. And I wrote a science fiction book that I'm looking for a publisher. But I've decided there's a couple of things I wrote that nobody wanted. One of them was a novel that I really, really liked. So I'm going to self publish that. Um, and I'm excited about that because you know when you've done something that you're proud of, it was like that, and I was like getting rejected, and I just thought maybe it's rubbish, maybe it's no good, and then I went and read it. I'm like, well, I like it, and you have no way of knowing if you're right or not, but you tend to get a feeling when you're doing something right. So I'm very excited about that. So look out for that in your remainder bins in about 3 years' time.
Or give over. I think everything that I know that you've done, I've always enjoyed. So I'm sure the new book will be, the same. You can release through Amazon, can't you?
Yeah, I've done that. The first book I wrote was a science fiction comedy called Sparks, about a man looking for a new girlfriend in a parallel universe, or rather, the man looking for his old girlfriend in a parallel universe where she still fancies him. And yeah, that's still out there. Makes me a pound a month, which is nice.
Fair dues.
Yeah, I mean self-publishing. If you can get self-publishing, you're prepared to do the work
Yeah.
and promote it relentlessly, or even if you just want it out there, is definitely worth doing. Done it before, so yeah, it's cool.
Um, and tonight, me and the lads are recording another episode just of what our favourites were from 2023 and what we're looking forward to, what's coming out this year. What was your favourite from last year, or maybe top five
Favorite what?
films? Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. God, I can't remember. Bottoms definitely just about slots in there. Barbie, I thought wasn't bad. Um, I don't know. My memory's gone, I'm afraid. Um, I would say the short version, I didn't really watch a lot of films that I really liked last year.
Do you know some? I struggled to pick. We had to pick four each for our, and I struggled, completely struggled. And I ended up with Evil Dead Rise, Godzilla
Oh,
minus,
sorry.
um, Evil Dead Rise,
Hmm.
Godzilla minus one.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I think it was Renfield.
Oh, Renfield is brilliant. I
It's
absolutely love
superb.
Renfield. That's right
And
at the top of my list.
the last one was Video Shop Tales of Terror, which is a low-fi, low-budget British horror film anthology, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
That sounds pretty good. Oh, I'll tell you what I liked. I probably can't remember the name. I like the one about the Nazis being killed by a lone man in Finland.
Oh, superb, Sisu,
Sisu, absolutely brilliant film. I really
bonkers.
liked it because there's an awful lot of movies now where they sort of replace the Nazis with the evil guys, or
Yeah.
and they don't have swastikas in this. What I loved about this, it was just wholesale slaughter of evil Nazis, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
If you like that, there's one on Netflix called Blood and Gold.
What's that?
It's basically a German soldier goes against his Nazi brethren and starts taking them out left, right, and centre.
I'll give that a go.
And there's Jewish gold, obviously, in the mix of it all, hidden away.
I'll give that a go. Finally, I've forgotten the name. There was a mad film. It's not entirely good, but it's basically about the idea that General Pinochet of Chile is a vampire.
The general was excellent. I like that.
I liked the first. I think I was a bit sad because it all went a bit grim in the final quarter. I should have expected that, really. But yeah, so that's two great vampire movies: The General and Renfield.
I no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. No, the Count, sorry, El Count it was
Count,
called.
yeah, that's right.
Not the General.
It was just a really, really good concept.
Yes, it was. With Margaret Thatcher and all that in it, and just superb, superb little film. And Scissor, but Blood and Gold, which is on Netflix. If you like Scissor, you'll thoroughly enjoy Blood and Gold. I think we've covered everything, and it's been an absolute pleasure as always.
I've enjoyed myself. If this film comes out, let's do it again.
Yes, definitely, 100%. I'd love to do that if the film comes out and gets done and dusted. I'll do an outro. Stick around afterwards, and we'll have a little natter before we get off. But thank you so much for being on, David. It's always a pleasure. Friend of the show. Thank you so much. It's been me, PD, and this has been the Carlisle Cultcinema cast. That's been the always brilliant David Quantick.
Thanks for having me, PD.
Thank you very much. Bye now.